Hey guys, Spirit of the Law here. There's lots of news about Age of Empires 4 at the fan preview, but we also heard about the new expansion coming for Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition called Dawn of the Dukes. If it's anything like Lords of the West, I would expect 2 new civilizations. And for this video, I thought it'd be fun to try to piece together the hints we've been given and guess what they are. Now, to be fair, they haven't actually promised any new civilizations and only mentioned new campaigns plus much more, which is pretty vague. This could just end up being a campaign pack with no new civs, but I'm going to operate under the assumption there are a couple of civilizations coming. I don't have any insider information here. I find out about all this stuff at the same time as you guys. So this is just my own speculation based on the 2 hints we have to work from. The first hint is they said the theme will be Eastern Europe, which makes sense as the last one was Lords of the West. That rules out Tibetans, a Native American civilization, Swiss, and lots of others that have been discussed on Age forums in the past, but also leaves quite a few possibilities. At first glance, Khazars, Georgians, or Armenians all seem like they would be reasonable, as they fit the Eastern European theme. The problem is they don't really have an obvious connection with the expansion title, Dawn of the Dukes. A duke is a ruler of a duchy, which none of these kingdoms were, though the term also has some different meanings. The Holy Roman Empire, for example, had various duchies within it, which would be analogous to states or provinces in a modern country. On the other hand, in Slavic culture, a Grand Duke of a Grand Duchy was the equivalent of a king or emperor at the top. Keeping all that in mind, one strong possibility that jumps out is it's going to include Poland. Poland and Lithuania formed a commonwealth in the late Middle Ages, and even though I'm pretty sure Lithuania was the duchy and Poland was a kingdom, I still think Poland makes a lot of sense. They were a powerful Eastern European medieval kingdom that a lot of fans would like to see in the game, while adding them in an expansion called Dawn of the Dukes doesn't seem out of place. The Polish wing Hussar is also the inspiration for the Hussar unit skin, as confirmed by Sandy Peterson himself.
They have Lithuania and not the Poles? The Poles are way more important than Lithuanians. The Poles invented Hussars, and they had the cool winged ones that we actually have in the game, or in one of the games.
Now we do already have the Magyar Hussar, which again has wings, plus the regular Hussar. I still think people would be okay with Poland having a special Polish or winged Hussar unit, as long as it was visually different from the others. Based on that famous unit alone, I would think Poland would be a cavalry civilization, with similarities to Magyars and Lithuanians. Admittedly, it'll be a bit of a challenge to differentiate them from Magyars, Lithuanians, and Slavs, which all got a piece of Poland in their designs, but I still think it's going to happen. Another possibility, though I would say is a bit less likely, would be the Duchy of Bohemia, sometimes called the Czech Duchy, though I'm pretty sure they would just be called Bohemians. The devs have already included Bohemia as a map, which I think slightly increases the odds they're considered as a new civ, as they're obviously on the devs' mind. They'd also be a good candidate as an infantry and siege civ. Another option is the Grand Duchy of Moscow, or some other proto-Russian stand-in, like the Kievan Rus or Novgorod. If we're talking about influential Eastern European Grand Duchies, Moscow or Kiev would be prime candidates. The problem is that these are exactly what the Slavs represent at the moment. That said, considering how many civilizations are starting to be included in the game, I think it's natural to break up older umbrella labels into more specific civilizations. Previously, Bulgarians would also have been under the Slav umbrella as well, and you could argue we're already seeing that happen with other civilizations. The last expansion added Sicilians and Burgundians, which arguably would already have been under the umbrella of the Italians and Franks. Obviously, in retrospect, I think the developers probably wish they'd gone with a less generic civ name than Slavs, as they kind of put 5 or more viable civilizations together, and are now looking back at that area hoping for more options. Either way, my guesses for the 2 new civs would be Poland as a cavalry civ, which I'm about 75% confident in, and for the second civ, I'll go with Bohemians as an infantry and siege civ. My big hangup is that they're not really Eastern European, so I'm only about 50% confident with that one. My backup guess is a stand-in for early Russia, whether that's a specific duchy like Moscow or Kiev, or something more general like the Rus. Admittedly, this takes a big piece out of what's currently covered by the Slavs, and we haven't seen the precedent of either renaming or carving up a civilization to that extent before. I wouldn't strongly argue against someone guessing Georgians though, and the Dawn of the Dukes title might just be throwing me off. I'm sure Finland, Serbia, and Armenia were considered as well, but they just don't really match the clues we have, and I'd be surprised if it's any of them. For Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition, we also know that United States is going to be added to the game. They were already in the campaign, but are now going to be a full-fledged civ. Apparently, they also have a new age up mechanic, which is something Age 3 has played around with before, between researching at the town center like Age 2, or with constructing buildings in the case of the Japanese. The best part is the new civ is free if you complete an in-game Age 3 challenge. We know it's called the 50 State Challenge, but we don't know the exact details. Alternately, if you just want to get the civilization without any extra hoops to jump through, you can just buy it directly. We also know they're going to be working on a new expansion featuring African civilizations. I think this was already guessed by a lot of H3 players as the next logical step, as they already have some African buildings in the campaigns, but now it's been officially confirmed. Ethiopia seems like an easy inclusion, and maybe another like Songhai or Congo, which would fit the time period. So that's all the news about new civilizations being added to the definitive editions. For anyone more familiar in Eastern European kingdoms and duchies, I'd love to hear your guesses as well. With the 2 new civilizations added, we'll be up to 39 in the game, leaving a pretty obvious gap in the civ selection page. I hear it crying out for one more civ down the road to have a nice round 40. Then again, they might just troll us and leave it at 39. Either way, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.